How hard did you push it? Till I black out? Yes. Numerous times, yes.
What's happening, MuniciPals? This is Big C and Ashton. We have a huge podcast today. Ashton, who do we got for these people?
We have the one and only Tron Carter from No Laying Up. It looked like he was reporting live from either his closet or potentially his little study at his home. And yeah, I think what you pointed out, Chris, we like to pretend like we're prepared. We sent Tron an email with some questions to get to, and we answered absolutely none of them. We had a fantastic 90-minute conversation where we talked about everything from public golf to what he's playing, what's in the bag, all kinds of stuff. And I guess one thing I should go ahead and add for context, the podcast is going to start off talking about Ron Bell. So Tron and I went to the same high school, the Marist School in Atlanta, which if you listen to No Laying Up is kind of a big joke there. So Ron Bell was a kind of legendary basketball coach. I think I forgot. I wasn't a big Marist sports guy, but we won a bunch of basketball championships. He coached a guy named Matt Harpring, who was in the NBA. And he was sort of a legacy guy at Marist. Ron Bell was, I think it's the Ron Bell basketball court. But he also, in his later years, also coached golf. And so one thing we talk about, you'll hear it at the beginning of the podcast, talking about some of our favorite Ron Bell stories. And also just want to say, Ron Bell actually passed away this year. So, rest in peace to Ron Bell, thoughts and prayers to his family, and, just remembering him because the man, as we say in the podcast, is a true legend. So this one was super fun because Chris and I are, massive No Laying Up fans. And then to be able to have such a great conversation with Tron about a variety of topics, I think it's something y'all are really gonna enjoy.
It was an absolute pleasure to have Tron on. We can't wait to have him again. As a host, I really hope that we can get him and some of the other No Laying Up guys on regularly. It was an absolute pleasure to have those guys, or to have Tron on today. So you guys, please enjoy, tune in, listen.
Let's go.
Out there, I played Highlands and Manzanita in one day, and went out there and saw Matt, and I was telling him we were having you on, and he was like, "Oh, you please tell him I said hello."
Yeah, no, he's the best, man. Him and Jason down at Gearhart are just my favorite people. So it doesn't get any better than that.
We were joking. We were like, they're building all those new houses on Highlands. We were like, we're just shocked No Laying Up doesn't have a house on this course yet. They have one on Sweetens. We just need one on Highlands.
You know what? I'd be lying if I said I hadn't been looking. I was showing my wife some lots the other day, actually down in Manzanita. And then I think the thing about out there is they've got short-term rental regulations, so you can't you're restricted on Airbnbs and short-term rentals. So I think it would probably be tricky to rent it out.
If you guys need help, my wife works for Vacasa. They have over 400 or 500 rentals within Gerhardt, Manzanita area that they do.
Oh, nice.
All long, short-term rentals.
Okay.
So if you need anyone to chat to, you've got a guy that can hook that up with.
Where are you guys at? Where's home for you?
So I'm in Portland, Ashton, San Francisco.
Okay, awesome.
So we actually met in the Bay.
Yeah, but I'm the one who from Atlanta, and then I actually brought my.
Oh my God, I'd recognize that anywhere.
my Marist Golf leather jacket, which my mom just gave me. She's like, "Do you want this?" I was like, "Yeah, why not?" It's especially for SF, it's good for the weather. So I was this is crazy.
I'm impressed. Yeah. I haven't seen one of those in ages. I'm sure mine's hanging up in my parents' basement somewhere. So
yeah, the golf bag had rusted to it. I had to pliers to rip it off.
Dude, I've got mine right here. It's right there. It's got the old hoofer It's got the, I think every year we sewed a new patch on for whatever we did the previous year, state runner up or state champ or whatnot. So, it's still kicking.
Yeah. That's really, really funny. Yeah.
So,
it was funny. I was going through my email even when I was emailing you. Like, I realized, so I work in tech. So the funny thing is I realized that I'd actually, before I knew anything about y'all, I emailed Neil, because I'm a recruiter. I'd emailed Neil about a job. So in my inbox, I have this very professional response from Neil that's like, thanks, I'm really happy at Google, but not looking to make a change right now. And it's like the irony now of like, oh, well, you really didn't want to be at Google and it's all this funny stuff. It's like, oh, and actually my response was like, oh, funny to run into a Marist grad. And now it's like 5 years later, it's like, oh man, Neil spends a lot of time on my TV these days. It's kind of funny.
What year were you at Marist?
2010. So 2 years behind Neil, I think. Yeah.
Okay. All right,
so
cool.
He's a little younger than us because I was an 05 grad, so.
Okay. Yeah. And then was Bell still was it Hodges or Bell as golf coach then?
I mean, Bell was running the show, but Hodges did all the stuff that was more logistical. I mean, I still remember my favorite thing was Coach Bell would, every week he would have the notes, and then he would photocopy the notes. Like we very much, 2010 and 9, we're like living in a world of computers. And Coach Bell would have stats where literally he'd take a ruler and like draw them straight down. It's like, hey, Moss, you're missing too many greens. You're not chipping well enough. It's like, I couldn't tell from this fucking sheet because it's like chicken scratch and cursive. Like I can't even tell what's going on in the sheet.
I wish I still had those because I still remember he was like, you're leading the team in fucking fairways and you just, you got like 35 putts around and you're hitting 14 greens and shooting 77. Like, how's that even possible? I'm like, I know, coach. I don't know how to putt. Okay. It's not making it any better. Right. So, those are some interesting days. I'm like just him putting one-handed with the cigar in his mouth, or all of his little life lessons that he'd teach at dinner and all that was fantastic. So
the kind of stuff as a kid you're like, this is bizarre, and now it's like, no, like this is quite literally the stuff of legends. Like this is truly unbelievable. For sure.
So
Ashton, don't you have a story of him like coming out in his underwear?
Wait, I mean, why would you give the punchline of the story?
Just
damn. Well, I've got a couple of good Coach Bell ones, but the one I wanted to share was we were at growing up. I was a member at Cusquilla at Lake Oconee.
Great spot.
And oh my God, like did not appreciate that place until like right now. I have like nightmares about how much I didn't appreciate that place. And the crazy part was thinking back. I asked my dad. My dad joined like right when they opened for a $5,000 initiation fee, which is crazy to think about what that was. I think it opened in 97. And I think
it was pretty early on in the Core Crenshaw universe.
Opened in 97. Dad joined in 98, and at that point, the reason it was so great too is there was no housing development. So like literally just like in the pine trees, nothing there. But so we took the golf team up there and we're eating breakfast. We did it like a Ryder Cup style. It was really, really, really fun. And I think the last day, the way the kind of villas were is there was like a main area. There's like a king size, like we called it a lockout, so you could go in there, kind of the rest of the house, and the whole team's kind of eating breakfast, and we're all talking and stuff. And then like there was like an island, so you couldn't exactly see. And then Coach Bell kind of walks out, and you can only see from like here up. Pours himself a cup of coffee, and we all kind of turn. He goes, "Morning, boys," and we all turn around, and Coach Bell is just like, "No." Chris said underwear. He just wasn't wearing anything.
Just butt naked.
Just standing there with a cup of coffee, like, "Morning, boys," and kind of looks at us, and we're all kind of just like sitting there flabbergasted, like. And then he just turns around, walks right in, and closes the door, and never said anything about it.
Yeah.
And like we just sat, and then like 10 minutes ago, we're all sitting there quiet. He goes, and he kind of looked at us and goes, "Nobody said anything, huh?" We're just like, oh my God.
He was. I remember like we were up in Dalton one time at the farm, and he drove all the way down I-75 from Dalton to Atlanta. It's like 2 hours in the left lane with his right turn signal on the entire time. So people were humming by, and we're going 70. People were humming by us on the right in the middle lane, just flicking us off. He's totally oblivious the entire time for 2 hours straight. I mean, honking, tailgating us, everything. And he was just in his own world up there. God, I remember there were a few times like went down to Vidalia or Columbus or Moultrie, just places like that. And, Hodges would have to end up driving the bus home. Neil's got a good one of him over and getting pulled over on the way to Kiowa one time, where he was driving the short bus over there, gets pulled over, I think in South Carolina, and then basically cop pulls him over and he opens the door, like the side door on the bus, and says, "What can I do for you, cop?" And he's like, "Hey, I'm sorry, you're speeding." And he's like, "I had no idea. The speedometer only goes up to 70 on this thing." The cop was like, "Yeah, you're going 87." He's like, "Honestly, I didn't even know this thing could go 87." So.
Oh man. Yeah, I had a short bus one with me in this. It was like when I was in like ninth grade. It was like, the CHOP kids going to the CHOP tournament. And we were on Ashford Dunwoody. Coach, he went to go fill up gas. And we were like, the light is here and the bus is here. And like, we are, to be clear, if the light goes yellow, like it's not even close. You need to you have time to stop. It wouldn't even had to slam on the brakes. Light goes yellow. Coach Bell just, pedal to the metal. You're talking about a short bus going 75 miles an hour through Ashford. I'm like, this is 4 o'clock. There's we know there's parents, kids. Coach Bell's taking a Marist bus, 75 miles an hour, just busting through. We're just hanging on in the back for dear life. It's we're all nervous about this match, and Coach Bell's tossing us around in the back at 75 miles an hour through Ashford Dunwoody. It's wow. Saw our life flash between our 4 eyes right there. It's crazy. Yeah,
he's a character. Well, I'm sad he passed away and everything. He was a true legend. Did you guys play at Cherokee, or what was your home course?
All the time. We kind of bounced around. We played Cherokee. We played at Lanier a lot, although our joke was it's because he lived up there. He was
oh, totally. Lanier, Chastity, all those places. He just didn't want to,
my parents were
drive back up north.
Yeah, exactly. Can you just tell, my dad was funny once, and he goes, Mr. Moss, it's convenient for me. My dad's well, we live in the city. I grew up near Chastain Park, and it's fucking hour up there. Coach Bell's short commute for me. It's okay, coach, whatever you want to do. But Lanier, those were good courses. Lanier was hard, man.
Lanier always had good greens too. They always had really, really smooth greens. It's funny. I was talking to some friends the other day that I played with at Marist, and they we were all talking Cherokee. I think I've played Cherokee I've played each course probably 75 times. I can't remember a single hole out there. It's just straight up mid 90s, or sorry, I got my family just walked in. I've got mid 90s, just Fazio cheesecake. Just really, really just not a whole lot of interesting stuff out there. And good land too.
Yeah.
So
that's true. And that's kind of a good part of our conversation. I think that's true for a lot. I had a buddy who just recently moved to San Diego, but before he left, he's I'm getting to play Country Club at the South. He's what do you think? And I was we'll talk about it after.
Yeah.
And he was dude, that place kind of sucked. I was yep.
Yeah. It's just late 80s Nicholas stuff, right? It's it's fine.
He's like, dude, I wasn't even hitting it that bad and just launching an OB into houses. I'm it's not very fun. It's just not very interesting.
Exactly. So, I didn't mean to hijack the convo there.
That's kind of how we roll. We just kind of go about it as a full conversation. But one thing that we always press, Ashton growing up in Ashton is Ashton grew up in Ashton, in Atlanta, is the public golf scene. So, we've kind of talked about it in the past, and, he's kind of said how poor it is and how lacking the public golf scene is. What would be your take kind of on the public golf scene out there?
Yeah, it totally is. Yeah, I think that, kind of took the first step with Bobby Jones. It was kind of hey, let's make a decent 9-hole course instead of having a shitty 18-hole one. Plus, there was no ranges in the city limits. I think they're making all sorts of money on that. They need to redo Chastain. They need to figure that out for sure. But I think Yeah, I mean, there's some good, like Echelon. I used to play there a lot. I used to play at a Shasta up 400. Like you had to drive outside the city limits quite a way to get a decent public course. Like I grew up at Dunwoody Country Club, and then when I came back after college, kind of realized I was like, holy shit, this is not a good golf city. And we go down to Cherokee Run or Stone Mountain. Trying to think, Legacy. River Pines, like Chateau Elan, just, places like that. But it was always just a drive, or it was kind of a hike. You got up the Frog. The place that I found myself going more and more towards the latter part of when I lived in Atlanta was Wolf Creek down kind of southwest by the airport, kind of unincorporated Fulton County. That place is awesome. There's only, I didn't realize till like the third time I played it, there's only one fairway bunker on the entire course. So that might have been like why I liked it so much, but the greens were always really smooth. Pace of play was always good, and it was really good land. Like it was a really, really good golf course, but didn't beat you up off the tee. It was definitely a second shot golf course. But yeah, I mean, I got to the point in Atlanta where I'd kind of stopped playing golf. This was like probably 2011, 2012. I was just working a lot. And then, it was just like pay $150 to go play a 6-hour round somewhere on a pretty uninspired course. So I just started going fishing up in the mountains. I just started fly fishing a lot. And then that's where Sweetens Cove kind of came in, and went up to Sweetens a few times, back in like 2015 or 2016. And, that kind of got me back into golf in a big way, at least playing golf. I'd been watching golf religiously, but unless I was traveling, I really wasn't playing a whole lot. So, I think Atlanta's interesting because you got great land, you got great climate for it. But it's kind of frustrating just because a lot of the golf was built in the 50s, 60s, 70s when it was, and even into the 90s, the 80s and 90s, it was just all real estate plays and all just kind of dark ages of golf course architecture. There's just not a whole lot of classic stuff with good bones. So
kind of Ashton too. I mean, you've said before, like Sweetens kind of got you back into kind of the roll of things. You actually stayed in the no laying up house up in Sweetens. So, and you were taking your buddy Nick out there, who just started playing during COVID, and that literally launched him into being just as big of a psychopath about golf as we are.
Well, I think the big thing for me growing up in Atlanta is I played, so you were saying like Chastain, which Chris, for you, that's North Fulton that I've talked about. That's what you're up to play, because my dad's thing growing up, I know we're going to talk some about Freddie and him playing kind of your approach there, but my dad's approach was, he was like, look, you'll always have clubs that fit. They'll never be the newest clubs, but I'm going to make sure it's stuff that fits. And then like we'll find, for his North Fulton's right on the corner, he's like, I'll pay your greens fees. So I think it was like $350 for like a year-long card. And he's like, you'll never have to want for golf, but like, we're not going to go buy the $500 driver. We're not going to go play, $150 greens fees. So I just beat up Chastain, Bobby Jones before they redid it. Definitely preferred North Fulton. But I think what was interesting for me, like, because I lived in San Francisco, I moved back to Atlanta, and then I actually just moved back to San Francisco about a year ago. When I lived in Atlanta during COVID, my buddy Nick got into golf, never played golf before, and we played River Pines a ton. And his whole thing is like, once he kind of got the itch, he's like, cool, I want to go explore some more. And then he would go explore, and he would just be like, dude, this place sucked. Dude, this wasn't good. So it turns out like he's the one who actually moved to San Diego, and now he's like playing Balboa and some like Coronado and some cool places. But he was just like, wow, man, he's like, this is crazy. Like he lived in Brookhaven and just would go to River. He probably played River Pines 50 times last year, because he's like, it's $40. Everyone's super nice. They regulate pace of play. Greens are decent, but he's like, it's just kind of crazy that like, he's like, I don't know why I would think it'd be better, but he's like, I should be able to think of like one course that's not, that's better than this, but that wasn't his experience. And it's also now moving out here and playing golf the way that I do, man, like the Bay Area within like, 2 hours, like you could never play all of them. Chris has tried. Chris is trying to play every course on the West Coast.
See, that's why I'm spoiled. Like I grew up in the Bay, between Sacramento and the Bay Area, and I've lived between in Portland, in and out for the last 6 or 7 years, and the West Coast public golf scene, it just I'm absolutely spoiled. Like, I've never experienced what you guys experienced growing up in Atlanta. If you didn't have a private club, you were kind of, lackluster in your options, where I could literally hop online and book a tee time at 15 to 30 different courses within a 40-mile radius of myself. Like, and that's the same with Portland.
It's like you guys have the depth and the quality where, I think, like, even Atlanta, like one of the lower end private courses, like a place that I love going to, I think it's probably punches above its weight more than anywhere in the city, is Rivermont. And they do such a great job out there. It's like best bang for your buck you can get for a private club, but it's it's still like it's either a draw, you got to fight traffic. It's still not cheap compared to other cities or other places, and it's just it's just kind of a tough pill to swallow when the weather is so good pretty much year round for golf, and it's just frustrating. So I think, like, I mean, shit, just talking about San Francisco, like, I've never lived there. Neil lived out there for 5 or 6 years, and like I could rattle off 10 different public courses that I've played in San Francisco that are better than anything I've played, in Atlanta. Same thing with Portland. I could rattle off 4 or 5 and I've been to Portland 2 or 3 times, but it's just, it's just kind of an embarrassment of riches. I mean, shit, I would play Eastmoreland in Portland over pretty much anywhere in Atlanta.
Well, that's where I look at Wildwood. Yeah. Like, I play Wildwood, 2-3 times a week. Ryan over there treats me really well. Always has me out there, and I play, do sweeping rounds with him at 5 a.m. before he's got to start. And I mean, it's just, I'm just spoiled by the amount of golf I have within the Portland limits. Owned by the city alone, there's 4 great golf courses owned by the city with, Heron Lakes and Eastmoreland, Rose City. Rose
City's awesome too. Yeah, I've never played at Heron Lakes, but Zach Blair and I went out to Rose City a couple of years ago, and we were blown away. The greens were great. There was like really interesting movement in the fairways. It was a cool spot.
And they just redid the greens, so they're in the process of doing every green individually right now. So that was the one course when I moved back to Portland. Me and Ashton took a Oregon golf trip, through Bandon. We stopped in Coos and played golf with the guys out there. And when we got to Portland, we only had one day and, enough time to play one round. And I was like, of all the courses I want to take you to, Rose City is the Muni course that I think I need to introduce you to. And, with the improvements they've done on the greens, it's even better than it was.
That's awesome to hear. It's and I think it's it definitely starts at the Muni level. Like, so like going back when my wife and I moved to Boston, I kind of like the light kind of went off where like the season's a hell of a lot shorter, but the like there's just so much more public golf. Like our George Wright, they pumped a bunch of money into that here recently. That's the Muni kind of in Boston. It's a Donald Ross. It's got unbelievable bones. You've got Sandy Burr, which is, just outside the city limits. There's like 10 or 12 Donald Ross or Styles of Van Cleek or like classic Munis that are pretty well kept up. Pace of play is not always great, and then you've got some new stuff as well that you would think that Boston would be kind of the opposite of Atlanta, where it's got such a shorter season. It's a more expensive place to live. And it's, it's just, so it's been so developed for so long, and it's the opposite. Like it's, cheap golf or cheap quality golf is plentiful. And, even like Philadelphia, Cincinnati, like there's a lot of places out there where it's like, I think Atlanta is kind of on that other end of the spectrum along with Nashville and a few other cities where it's just like, there's just not a whole lot of good public golf for whatever reason, and it kind of goes back to, some in Charlotte's like that a little bit. I think it goes back to like cities that were built relatively recently, kind of developed relatively recently, didn't really have that, it was much more of a, less of like a city emphasis on municipal stuff and all that. It was more like just kind of a land grab, right?
And that makes more sense. The older the city or the, the more that they had like if the cities, involve municipal parks and, golf is included within that, you're going to see a lot more growth within that. And I think that's why the city of Portland has thrived so much, and the city of San Francisco is held on so tight to the 3 courses that they have.
Yeah, Presidio has been here since like 1908. Like, it's been here forever. Mm-hmm.
But the one thing we always talk about is we'd love to see a little bit of money put into Lincoln. I mean, it's just it's
stinking Lincoln.
to see. Oh my God,
Lincoln or Glen Eagles or even down to Sharp Park. Yeah.
Sharp.
So
I mean, they've had a thing going for Sharp, trying to save that place since I was like 20 years old, and I'm 33 now, and it's like
No, I was actually emailing somebody about it earlier. Jason Yip from State Apparel. I was emailing with him about it earlier, and
I love Jason.
just trying to get some momentum going there, or it's the same thing in there's stuff like that in Detroit. You've got Rackham in Detroit, which is a great old school Donald Ross. I think Mr. Rackham was like he was the president or founder of General Motors, and basically gave the land to the city. And similar deal. Like, if you just God, you got to realize like what you've got here, and if there was any, like, it's like letting and I guess Detroit's a poor example because there's a lot of really like magnificent architecture that's been kind of set aside or cast aside or kind of like just falling apart, right? But most cities, like, if you have something on the National Historic Register, or something that means something to the fabric of a city, like, you're going to take care of it, and you're going to either restore it or keep it up to certain standards. And I think there's a weird thing with golf to where that just doesn't compute with people, or they think because it's old, it's not necessarily as good, when in many cases it's better, right?
And I mean, we all know that, especially by some of the renovations that we've seen from Doak and, Hans and all these guys going into some of these courses that might have been dilapidated over time, and just what they've been able to, bring back. Like, we played Soul Park within the last year, and I mean, the stuff dope. He's done out there is just like, I mean, it was just a plain, it started, they shrunk all the greens. The greens were getting smaller and smaller over time because of maintenance. They kept doing all of these things to make it easier for him to maintain the course. Yeah. But then, Hans went out there and he goes, I can make it easy for you to maintain the course and also be an incredible
and also make it better. And make it more playable for higher handicaps, and also more challenging for lower handicaps. Same thing like Denver with Common Ground. Like, Common Ground with Doak and his guys did that, and it's fantastic. And it's not a great piece of land. Like, it's that's the other thing. Like, you don't need a great piece of land. You just need interesting greens that roll pretty true, a good superintendent, and good pace of play, right? And that's kind of the deal. It's not rocket science, and it shouldn't be, as hard. I was just doing a podcast today on our Crash Course pod with, I was telling DJ about Wild Horse out in Gothenburg, Nebraska. Like, a bunch of farmers basically got together, took out a loan from the bank, donated some land, built a golf course right after they did Sand Hills in like 98 or 99, hired 2 of Corin Crenshaw's guys, Axland and Proctor. And it's probably, along with Soul Park and Rustic Canyon and probably Chambers Bay, it's like, top 4 or 5 public course I've ever played. It's just unbelievable, right? And and I think it's still like, it's a very renowned course in the U.S. now, and it's still only $51 to walk Monday through Thursday, and $61 to walk on the weekends. It's like, man, like, I think the game would be in a better place. Like, you want to grow the game, all right, more of that stuff, like more investment and that sort of thing, and not just, because I think something else too is just going back to the munis. It's like there's, going back to my time in Atlanta, for instance, there's such an emphasis on playing the new thing or driving to play the new course, whereas that takes time, right? And that's what's in short supply these days. Even if it costs more money, like, I'll go pay money to play somewhere, but I can't get back that hour and a half, 2 hours that I spent going to and from in the car, right? And I think that's, like, making it to where golf fits into the fabric of people's lives, around the corner from them, and they can stop by and play 3 holes after work or go squeeze in a twilight 9. Like that's the missing element here, or just even going and putting, right? Where, in those places kind of just keep getting pushed aside. So I think there's definitely some good momentum in certain places. Like you look at Austin with like Muni trying to redo that, or they're doing a big project up in Philly right now at Cobb's Creek. We've got a success story here at Jax Beach where, the city council just set aside, not a ton of money, like $1.5 million by Parks and Rec standards, like it wasn't a massive outlay for them. And the course has gone from losing, $200,000 to $300,000 every year for the last 30 years to being $800,000 to $1 million in the black, this year without that significant of investment and without raising rates. Right. It's just, it's like, if you build it, they will come. Like they will come. Right.
No, it's 100% true. And the stories like that are endless. Like we've ran into a bunch of them where there's a 9-hole course in Northern California, just outside of Shasta, called Grape Ranch, and this father-son duo from Utah that owns a construction company really fell in love with Sweetens Cove, and they wanted to find a property that they could purchase, redo, and kind of create a West Coast version of Sweetens. And so that's what they're in the process of doing. They purchased it, a year and a half ago. They're in the midst of doing full reconstruction of the course. And they have, concerts on Friday nights out on the driving range. They're really trying to bring in different elements to kind of grow the game, bring the community to that area. And we're seeing it endlessly with the courses that we're going out to. We're like Coos Bay, Andre, he worked for ESPN up in Seattle. Purchased Coos Golf Club for $700,000 from the owner with a no-interest loan. The owner of the golf course gave him a no-interest loan for $700K. Yeah. He now, they did minor tweaks to the course. They cut the greens low. They cut all the rough really low, so it was very playable, easy for the locals that were coming out. And it was just dilapidated. By the time he was done with it a month later after he purchased it, he was now in the black. They were having, regular matches out there. The caddies from Bandon stopped playing at Bandon Crossings, and now, he has a huge membership of all the caddies from Bandon that now play up there, do Muni Madnesses on Thursdays, and they've got all these crazy things going on out there, and we need a lot more of that within golf. And it's cool to see that all these stories are taking place within the last, 5 years or so.
Yeah, and I think it's something too, where you don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? Like you don't have to do a whole lot, or you don't have to golf courses. It's not a complex organism. Like sometimes the more simple you make it, the better. The more the less intervention, the less bunkering. Sometimes the less bunkering, the more strategy there is. Whereas when there's bunkers everywhere, there's no strategy, right? So I think, there's definitely bright spots, and I had heard that about Coos, and that's good to hear that it's kind of come to fruition, because, I've driven by that billboard a few times on the way down there, or from Eugene or from Portland, and yeah, I mean, shit, you look at like Gearhart, same thing, Tim Boyle just chopping down a bunch of trees and putting cool greens in, right? Or
and that property is spectacular. It's ridiculous how good it is.
Oh, it's so cool. You look at the stuff that they're doing at Manzanita, to kind of polish that place up and take some trees out. Or we were out at Gold Mountain in April, Gold Mountain and Chambers Bay. Those places are fantastic. But, I think something I always tell them up here at our place, if you can, our big thing that we want to do here is a big community putting course. Basically we've got the putting green and we've got 9 green, but we need to connect them. And there's maybe half an acre or an acre in there where we could easily just connect it. And it's going to take one more guy to basically mow that, on a weekly basis or on a daily basis. But, I think it would more than make up for that extra cost just in food and beverage sales alone. Like, you basically come out and you say, all right, here, we're going to put a couple good Sauvignon Blancs, couple good Chardonnays, couple good Rosés, some seltzers on the menu, and kind of a nice little outdoor bar and some, and then like it's not just the golf course, right? It's like just an outdoor place to hang out, and then there's golf there. There's a place down the road from us, the Yards here. They've kind of done that. They've taken that. It was like a kind of a crappy 18-hole course in the gates of Sawgrass and public course, and they have basically taken that they sold off the first 6 holes to kind of fund the rest of this stuff, and they turned it into a 9-hole course on the existing routing, kind of blew up the greens and made them really cool, and then did like a 3-hole loop and then another like little 4 or 5-hole loop, and they call it the front yard and the backyard. And the backyard is all just fun little 60 to 80 yard shots that but it's delightful, and they got a great restaurant there and a great range now that they didn't have before. And it's kind of one of those things. It's like, you don't need 18 holes even to make it world class, right?
I mean, all 3 of us have played the Preserve. We all know that, I mean, you only need 13 holes to make a fun, enjoyable afternoon. And, talking about putting courses, I mean, the putting course at Bandon proves to everybody, you put a little hut out there selling drinks on a putting course that's free,
or a food truck,
and you're gonna any of that. Sweden bringing out all the food trucks and stuff that they've been doing, and having the events, and putting a tiki bar in the sand trap like that. I mean, those little things, don't cost a lot for a lot of these public courses to do, but it's going to create a conversation where people are going to go, hey, have you played that course that has a tiki bar in the sand trap?
Yeah. Well, and even that, like, it's still, and it's revenue that probably otherwise wouldn't exist. Right. Especially if you can get that kind of after hours, that 6 PM to 8 PM or 6 PM to 9 PM in the summer kind of revenue going. So yeah, I'm totally with you. I mean, there's all sorts, like there's a place called Hooper up in New Hampshire. I was down at the Palm Beach par 3 course, back in like February or March, and same kind of thing. Like it's 18 holes of par 3, probably the most spectacular land you'll find on the eastern seaboard. It's on the same dune structure as like Seminole, and it's on the intercoastal and on the ocean. The front 9's on the intercoastal, back 9's on the. I mean, it's probably close to $1 billion piece of land, and they've got this unbelievable restaurant up top, and it's just and granted, it's a super high net worth area with tons of disposable income, but it's also like one of the snootiest places in the world. And the fact that a little public par 3 course has turned into kind of a community hub there shows that you can kind of do it anywhere, right?
I mean, same with Mariners out in the South City in San Francisco. It's this little par 3 course that's got a great practice, area that you pay $10 an hour to go into, and they've got like 4 different greens that you can chip from all different lies, and they've got bunkers and all this crazy fun stuff in there, in a half grass driving range. But it's the property it's on. It's right on the bay. I mean, half the course you're basically hitting shots almost on the water, and it's just. If they're able to create something like that there, I don't see why every city shouldn't be able to pop up something that is doable and usable for, the entire community.
Well, and the other thing, too, it ties back to accessibility. Because, I mean, even, like, I think about, I know you're having it with Freddie right now, and I think about it like my girlfriend Liz. She is never really played golf, picked up a club, and, like, I just got her first couple clubs. And I told Chris, there was sort of an aha moment because we went to the driving range once, and she didn't love it because, well, first of all, I'm a lefty, so like she didn't like that I was like looking at her and she was like not making contact. But she just didn't like it because the first thing I gave her, probably my fault, was like a hybrid, and there's sort of this pressure of how far you can hit it. And then we went to the McMenamins pitch and putt when we were visiting her family in Portland, and it was like an aha moment because I gave her hybrid. It's a 60-yard hole, and she almost hit it on the green. And I think like Chris was saying, like when he teaches his kids, like because he's a golf coach for high school or middle school kids, or high school kids, he teaches green to tee, because going back to these putting greens idea, even on a par 3 course, like Golden Gate Park, for example, I love that golf course, but like if I hand Liz a hybrid and say, cool, hit it 160, she can't do that.
Yeah.
It's not going to be fun. But if it's like, hey, here's, to your point, a Sauvignon Blanc, and you're putting it from here to the chair, she can do that. She's going to think that's fun.
Well, and she
right?
knows what success is, versus like if she hits the hybrid well and it goes 140 or 180, like that looks like failure to her, when really it's like, no,
Right.
That was a good shot. There was just a lot of other stuff that had to go right for that shot to end up in the right place. And that's like Solly, my colleague's teaching his wife how to play golf right now, and they're doing the same thing. Like, all right, cool, we're going to play. It's still a par 4, but we're starting from 30 yards out. Or
Right.
we're starting from 60 yards out, and and kind of keeping score that way. And then as soon as you reach a certain point, in relation to par, then we'll go back to 75 yards, that sort of thing. That's what I'm struggling with my little guy, Freddie. He's like 4.5. Is like, we take him out and he wants to hit driver all day. And I'm like, no, let's go putt, man. And then he's swinging his putter like a driver on the putting green. And it's like, no, like, let's focus on making these 6-footers and have a little game between us. Like, I don't want to teach him any fundamentals or anything like that. I just want him to figure out how to get the ball in the hole. But I feel like that's, and then after we do that, then we can go to the range and he can bang his driver as hard as he wants to. But I think the fun is in learning how to get the ball in the hole, right? And not just hitting as far as you possibly can.
Yeah. And it, I think, also solves the problem too about, I remember the podcast Andy did with, or not Andy, one of the Friday guys, it was not Andy. They were talking about, they had on a representative like the San Francisco, somebody wrote an op-ed basically saying they should plow multiple courses in San Francisco. And they had a really interesting dialogue. And her whole point was like, what good is this? Which we're not going to get into that. We all know the good of golf courses.
Yeah, the whole Malcolm Gladwell, bullshit argument.
Well, I mean, she was literally dead serious. So like, we should plow Presidio and put affordable housing. It's like, I'm just going to like fade to black on that. I'm not even going to engage with that, which, he did. Good for him. Yeah. But I think the other part too is like, yeah, we're all pro, like, sure, turn the course into a park. There's a lot of ideas. But if you build a facility where it's like, hey, in the same way you can go to a tennis court, right, and grab a racket and just kind of bang it around, if we can create spaces where it's like, to your point, whether it's Freddie or, Hannah, like Solly's wife, or Liz, they all feel there's always a place where somebody can feel welcome. Yeah. Then it sort of solves the problem for itself. But I think that's where, as we've all said, it's not rocket science for golfers like us, right? Like Presidio, for example, now they've been doing on Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays, you can go play the back 9, start teeing off at sunlight. Like, that's smart, right? Like, it's like, hey, I'm going to go play 9 holes for my family's there. That's smart for golfers like us. But if we can also make sure it's like, hey, why don't you actually put a tee at 40 yards? I'm not saying they're going to do that, but like, why don't we try that, right? To make it feel people like, here's a set of clubs, here's 3 clubs, go tee off at 30, we're going to charge you $10, right? Yeah. That's not an option we ever see, but like, that's where I think places get creative. And if it fails, try something else. But accessibility doesn't just mean it's $40 to go play. That's great for the 3 of us who are golf sickos. It's also like, how can we build a course where actually, like, I don't know if Freddie feels comfortable yet. You know what I'm saying? Like when he's 7.
Oh, he feels comfortable anywhere. No, but it's even like my wife, who doesn't really play golf, but watches golf all the time, is very fluent in golf. That she can come and Alex can come and like have a glass of wine and hang out and feel comfortable or feel welcome there, even if she's not necessarily a quote unquote golfer. Right. I think somewhere in Atlanta that I think got this right almost by accident is Candler Park.
I used to live right by Candler Park.
Yeah, it's just like, it's pretty ragtag, but it's like, hey, like, grab a 6-pack of beer and 1 club and go out there and just hit it around, right? And there's no, I think that kind of gets back to, you go to Ireland, it's like Ireland especially, even more so than Scotland. You go to Ireland and they've got all these little pitch and putts that are, like there's a couple of them right down the road from Lahinch or right down the road from Ballybunion, and they're literally just like a farmer turning their potato farm or their crop for that. They're just building golf holes on it, building 7 or 8 greens on it, and doing that. And I think it's like, it kind of gets back to, all right, this is a really really like rudimentary game when you get down to it, right? It's not, it's not I think we've overcomplicated it over the last century or so, especially the last 20 years or so. So.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely.
No,
and we
it's
talk
true.
all the time, especially with municipal courses that are owned by the cities, kind of taking the model of Europe, or, more like England, Scotland, Ireland, and Sundays, close the courses down, open it up as a park. I mean,
yeah. I mean,
allow
in
people
places
to come
where
out
you
there and
need to
enjoy it.
prove it to be, prove it as a, a definite, because like, I mean, shit, even at like Chambers Bay, you've got that little park right next to there that probably wouldn't exist if not for the golf course, right? And I think it is imperative, like on golf, to kind of prove its worth to people who don't play golf, right? Because I think there's a lot of agronomic or kind of environmental benefits too of just it's a big plot of grass, but there's also it's kind of a purifier or a filter and place for wildlife to live and all that as well. So I think there's definitely a disconnect between golf and the rest of society. I think it's starting to be rectified a little bit, but also like just with regard to municipal courses and city run courses, like, you've got elected officials that, they like shiny things, but you've also got like kind of career city employees that don't want to upset the apple cart or do something that's going to be outside the status quo or that's outside the norm and really stick their neck out, right? They're not incentivized to do that. They're incentivized to kind of, keep the budget in line and not take risks, right? And so some of these projects can be seen as a risk until we kind of flip the tide and say, hey, no, it's this massive opportunity. Like the risk is leaving it as is and leaving all this money on the table. And, and of course there's a balancing act there too, where you've got, when you do redo the greens or you do, spruce up the course a little bit, maybe the rates do go up a little bit, right? Or maybe, the course does get popular and maybe some of the regulars that play there on a daily basis they've been grandfathered in at $12, around, they get squeezed out, right? But like, I think, there's a balancing act there, but at the end of the day, like, all right, some of those guys that are playing there for $12 around are probably the same guys that are playing slow as shit in the mornings and aren't fixing their
divots.
their
and the reason the
divots.
course sucks is because of those guys.
Exactly. And it's like, I think there's definitely a, hey, let's kind of usher these guys along a little bit and do something for the greater good instead of just what's best for these dudes that are 72, 75 years old and have been playing out there for the last 30 years and kind of running the show. And you've seen what they brought about, right?
No, I mean, that's 100% true. And I mean, that's, again, I think what we're slowly seeing with some, but I think the city run courses are probably the last to get there. A lot of these privately owned public courses are new owners like Andre and, like the guys out of Sweeten's coming out and really, bring a new flavor to what public golf is. I think it's slowly taking place, and I'm excited to see what it's going to be in the next 10, 20 years for.
Well, I think it's something too where it's, it's kind of getting rid of that differentiator. Like instead of just saying what public golf is, it's just like, no, like this is just what golf is, and kind of getting rid of that thing. Cause there's always an old saying with, like, I think the third owner of a golf course is the one that makes money. The first owner takes a bath. The second owner, probably cleans some stuff up and maybe breaks even or maybe loses a little bit. And then the third owner finally, it's finally the debt's been chopped down that much and other people have taken a hit and that guy comes in and buys it for a song and there's actually some upside there. So I think there's definitely a crop of those coming up,
And we just need more sample size, right? Because I think that's what's so great is like now that we can use Jax Beach as an example to the next city council. Now that, like Chris is a great branch, you were saying that doesn't exist. That I don't know if it'll work. I hope so. but that doesn't exist without Sweetens. And I think just the sample size of no, this makes the difference. And also too, I mean, there's certain places where I know, again, last year during COVID, River Pines was super busy. And a big reason why I think was because in a good way, those guys were militant about pace of play. They didn't raise their rates. And they were like, cool, stay, they were yelling at people on number 2 for being slow. And that's great, And same thing with Presidio. I teed off probably a month ago, teed off at 6:10, and we were on the 5th hole. And these guys ahead of us were 3 holes behind. And the marshal comes up and goes, we were putting on the green. And the marshal goes, excuse me, what the fuck are y'all doing? You were the 3rd group out. And you're they were not nice about it, right? But they're like, we didn't think we had to come check on you because you cheat off at 6:10 and you're 3 holes behind. What in carts? What in God's name are you doing, right? But I think that's what we need more of. And what we're trying to do also is there's a place out here in Auburn. I think it's Auburn. Chris, you can correct me. Dark Horse. It's an amazing golf course.
Great golf course.
But they are apathetic to pace of play. Our buddies went out there a couple weeks ago, twosome, 10 o'clock on a Friday, 6 hours and 10 minutes to play. You just can't go support those places because they called the pro shop and they're basically like, we're not going to do anything.
Well, also,
Dark Horse, do it.
Dark Horse is this weird course. So it's a beautiful, well-maintained, mountain, foothill style course up in Auburn, California.
Augusta white sand. It's a trip.
It's a trip. It's beautiful, beautiful, amazing design, everything about it. But they have a little fucking shack of a clubhouse. They have 2 guys that work every day, and they're the only people on the entire course other than maintenance crew. And they don't give a shit. They literally, you pull up, you swipe your card, they hand you a cart key, because to be honest, this is not a walkable course at all. Anybody that walks it's nuts. And you're on your way. There's no starter. There's nobody out there marshaling the course. So, the locals kind of run amok throughout the entire course, do whatever they want, hit 6 balls if they feel like it. So, you got to know what you're getting when you go out there. But they're going to have issues over time because from, the closest suburb, which is Roseville, Rockland, just outside of Sacramento, it's 30 to 40 minute drive up the hill. So why are people going to make a 40-minute drive up the hill to play this course where it takes them 6.5 hours to finish a round?
When you've got that sort of, when you're driving that far, you've got options in other directions, right? 45 minutes. All right, cool. I drive 45 minutes in 4 different directions and probably have a couple options in each direction, right?
About 25 courses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and me coming from the Bay Area, it's do I want to drive to Tahoe or do I like to drive to Monterey? And I can play Poppy Hills and PG Links play a 36-hole day for, $160. It's again, maybe in Atlanta, but, But again, there's even places like that. Have you ever played the Fields, Tron?
You know what? I haven't been out there in not since... When did it open? Because I've played there one time, but it was very, very early on, and I think it was before the current. I don't know, the current folks that bought it or whatnot. It was I can't really place it, and it was kind of pre me understanding what I appreciated about architecture.
You guys should really that would be a great crash course spot. I think even Andy talked to the guy who runs that place because the big thing for him is
Andy raves about it.
He was we tell people all we give a shit about is 30 yards and in basically. And he said and that's what I love. If you know the area like you do, he's it's LaGrange, man. He's I could mow the fairways tighter and charge $5 more, but people here would just rather it be cheaper. And I'm just going to give all the attention to where the scoring is. And I went out there. It was dead. We went out there, December with my buddy Nick. Was blown away. We had a 2-hour frost delay and still played 45 holes. It was a great track because they built some new stuff. But that's the point. Is pace of play was great. We got in 45 holes, super nice people. I will gladly drive to the fields, but it's to the point about Dark Horse. I think those of us as golfers, you go once and it's I don't care what it is. I'm not going to spend 6 hours and have the staff be apathetic because, as golfers, all we really care about is, value, ish. I think we've all ponied up per Chris's hat, Pasta Tampa hat. We've all ponied up for some big boy courses, but just solid greens, quick pace of play, and just like the feeling of you give a shit. Like just
Totally.
We're happy to be here. We've been here. Just like make me feel like y'all care. And some
you always
places
want to
just
feel
don't
like a
make you
place
care.
is, under promises and over delivers. You always want to feel that in any facet of life, right? And golf's no different. And Mike Young's the guy. I just looked up Andy's thing. Yeah, it's been on my list for a while. I haven't been there, and I haven't been to Old Toccoa yet either. Up and DJ raves about that place. So, yeah, but yeah, and it's something too where like even a year and a half, 2 years into Jax Beach being renovated. I mean, I guess we're 2.5, almost 3 years in now. It's like the city council still doesn't quite believe that like the profits are real. And so like Bruce, our facilities manager, and Trevor, the superintendent, who's done an unbelievable job. They go to city council and basically, kind of present. And after the first year, I think, made $500,000. And because before the city had just kind of thought of it as a park that, park's not really revenue generating, but it creates public good. Right. And, so they went to city council, and city council was like, no, like there's got to be an accounting error or like figure out what's wrong here. And they're like, no, like we're telling you. And it's something where the money has to stay at the golf course. So they start, proposing stuff to city council. Hey, let's do this with the driving range, or let's, we've got this deferred maintenance with irrigation, or we need to do this to this pond. And they're still dragging their feet, where it's like, because they don't understand that like the greens at Jax Beach are the best greens in town 7 or 8 months out of the year, versus anywhere that has Bermuda and they've got to punch a lot more. We've got Paspalum and they're smooth and bouncy and firm all the time. It's crazy, but but like people are just skeptical and wary because it's been a lost leader for the city for 30 years, and it's like, all right, what changed? Well, yeah, like somebody came in and gave a shit. That's what changed, So
And that's all it takes is a good GM, good superintendent that really fucking cares.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, just like we were talking about with Coos, with Andre, he shows up and he goes, well, what can we make better on this course? They're like, well, we could have the greens run faster and we could have it a more playable course. And he goes, well, go on the practice green up there and cut it fucking super short. And if it burns out, we'll stop. If it doesn't, go out and cut all the other fucking greens. So they go up there, they come back, like, oh shit, it worked. And it's like, yeah, then go fucking cut all the other greens. So they cut them all short, and then all the regulars went out, played it. The next day they come up to Andre and they're like, what the fuck happened? What'd you guys do? And he goes, we mowed the greens.
And at some point, if the greens, in the next 3 or 4 years, if the greens that are probably due for a makeover anyway, do burn out, they'll actually have the revenue now because people are playing there, right?
Yeah, and absolutely. And, with just the little bit of tweaks they've done, the advertising they've done, bringing in youth and utilizing social media, he's really turned that place around, and being so close to Bandon, only 30 minutes outside of it, and everybody that goes to Bandon has to drive through Coos anyways.
Yeah,
it's like, why not stop in, pay $35 to play when you're about to drop $300 to go play per round at Bandon?
Yeah, no, that's a no-brainer, and it's something too where like I think there's something to be said too. I was reading, I can't remember where this plan was. There's a couple of courses like this. There's one down in Argentina, but somebody's planning one here, I think, at some sort of resort or some sort of, it's like a second course somewhere where they're going to do basically 9, 12, 18 greens in a big field and then just set it up different every single day. So there's a place I think called
sheep ranch kind of thing.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I mean essentially like that, but on a very flat kind of nondescript piece of land. Like there's one down in Argentina called El Erstina that's like that. It's like an old polo field that they did it with. But but basically bring in a shaper and just do like some of the best greens and surrounds and then get some pretty durable grass and just set it up different every day. But it's a course with a crazy amount of variety and also, probably really easy to cut, and on a small, compact piece of land too, because I think at some point for me, it's like, hitting drivers fun. Like playing a full golf course is fun, but I don't need to do that every day. I want to go out and hit wedges and go hit 7-irons and then chip and putt and, play it on the ground a little bit. That's what kind of gets my juices flowing, and that's what keeps my game sharp. I think if you could do that, more places, it would be a no-brainer. But it just comes down to like, you got to have good turf, you got to have kind of a sandy base, and you got to have interesting greens. Those are kind of the three elements, right?
I mean, that's basically everything you need. And I mean, good pace of play and, somebody out there that's, paying attention. I mean, you're good to go.
Yeah. And I think also like it's, some of it comes down to like, it's easier said than done, but on some level, PGA of America, USGA, they need to get better at telling the story of pace of play, right? Because, when they don't enforce it, like now's the time to do that. Like you got a ton of people playing golf, you got a ton of new people playing golf, and a lot of these people, like they're not doing it maliciously even, right? They just don't know any better, or nobody's kind of shepherding them along and kind of guiding them of like, hey, this is a sport. Like it's not like they're going to go out on a pickup basketball court at the park and start hacking people or just start dribbling around, in circles while the game's going on. Like, no, like you'd get your ass beat for that, right? It's like, but you would figure that out pretty quickly, or somebody would, tell you, like, it's like, I feel like we need to have a better system for kind of onboarding golfers a little bit more.
And one thing I say, it's like, so at, what's it called? Bethpage, where on their scorecards, they actually have a handicap on every tee box listed. I think the USGA could definitely offer some sort of free handicap, situation where you don't need to really join a membership. And there are apps out there where you can create your handicap by using a free app, things like that. But I think if more courses had that listed on the tee boxes, on the scorecards, and when you went in and paid, stated like, hey, just play your tee box according to your handicap, and if the starter pushed that again, when you went up to play, and people didn't have that concept that they had to play from the tips or they had to play just from the one-ups. They have to play from these deep.
There's always a pride factor though, right? Like it's always, people always think they're better, or they feel like they're not getting their money's worth, where, I think there's a movement afoot to make it more about fun. Right. And make it, hey, like, you're not, most people out there aren't going out and shooting 75 or scaring par. Like, what's the difference between shooting 93 and 89? Well, on the 89, you're probably going to have more fun. Right. And if you played from 400 yards farther up or 700 yards farther up and lost 3 less tee balls and played in 10 minutes faster, yeah, and if your thing is going out and drinking beers, well, if you play from shorter up, you got more time to drink beers out there, right? Like, that's less yardage you have to conquer, right? So, it's just a matter of like who doesn't, and I mean, really, like if you are legitimately trying to get better, like working on your wedges and having a bunch of shorter clubs in your hands, how you're going to get better, right? You're going to kind of hone that in and learn how to score. And then you can move back once you start doing that. So.
Yeah. And I mean, that's, coaching in high school, that's kind of one thing that I teach to my kids is you're not getting anything of hitting from the far backs. You're actually deterring yourself from wanting to come out as much as you would, because if, like you just said, if you go from hitting from the back tees and you shoot an 89, 90, and then I move you up 2 tees and you're shooting, you're hitting from 5,400 yards and you shoot a 78, which one was more enjoyable? Which one did you enjoy more? And I force the kids to do that. So, and I don't ever do cuts on my teams. I let anybody that comes out can come out and be on my team. No matter the level of play, I always have spare clubs. I always have, anything I need to give to these kids to outfit them. And those kids, I always start green back. And I've had a 90% return of kids come back to play on my team the next year and are better condition, know everything they need to know. They've hung out with the rest of the team and been out playing in the off season. And it's just by starting them off that way and teaching them, the proper etiquette and way of going about it, and teaching them how it's fun. I mean, you don't need to go back and hit from that far back. It's a simple game if you make it simple.
And it's something too where, like, kind of going back to the original combo we were having at the beginning, like, I was one of those kids too. I don't think I ever had a new set of irons until we started working with Callaway with, like, the beginning of NLU. I always played, I bought a set of irons off a neighbor of mine. During college, I had a set of Titleist 962s. Growing up, I bought a set of Callaway X14 Pros off of one of my teammates.
So our buddy still plays those Titleist clubs, or he actually just switched to the new Strixons, but he played the 962s up to maybe about 4 months ago.
That's one. I started with some Tommy Armour 845s, and then I went to the 962s. And then I think I had, like, a mixed set of, like, 981s and 990s. And I wish I could go back and, like, play a more forgiving iron in high school, because my irons would have been a lot better. They were pretty unforgiving. But yeah. And then I played a Titleist 975J. And I could hit that thing off the deck. I could work a draw off the deck. Like, it was like having a 15th club in my bag. But it was the same kind of thing where, like, I would get new wedges, but I played the same putter all through high school. I would get, new wedges every 18 months or so because the grooves would wear out. But otherwise, like, it wasn't about the equipment, right? It was about, beating balls out in the range and learning my swing, right?
Yeah, and I mean, creating those lasting relationships too with the people that you have on your golf team, and enjoying, like, I don't think I even cared what clubs I had at that point. All my clubs came. My dad worked for a construction company, and they had like 3 or 4 golf tournaments every year. And my dad was such a shitty golfer that his handicap always he would have his year round every fucking tournament. And so my dad would shoot 110 on average when we'd go out and play.
God, your dad sounds a lot like my dad. I don't think, and my dad was shooting 110 without, with 3 mulligans and.
Well, my dad loves the gimmick clubs. He had the alien wedge, and he had, like, all of those, like the spinny,
the pure spin, diamond face wedge.
Diamond face wedge. Anything that would improve his game, he was about it.
Yeah.
And so they would go play these tournaments, and he would win. Everybody would throw a fucking fit because my dad would shoot like a 91, and with this 32 handicap, he would, like, demolish the field. And so he'd always come home with, like, new sets of clubs or whatever the prize was, and so I always got my dad's hand-me-downs. So I always had pretty good clubs because my dad was always winning new ones at the tournaments. So, but I don't think I ever cared or looked at what I had. It was more of just going out and working on my game and really focusing on that. So
it must have been nice being a lefty. My dad didn't know what to do. Like, I mean, I think we went to the Play It Again Sports over by Chastain Park, and I played Cleveland TA7s until high school, and then I got custom fit for some Titleists, and then I played those for 10 years until I got my set of Mizunos now. But yeah, I think
those TA7s were solid though. Those TA7s were good looking clubs. I've been to that Play It Again Sports a bunch of times.
Right next to the Publix.
So this guy still plays a Cleveland Highbore hybrid, and it's this 2-iron or 2-iron hybrid. And I mean,
21 degrees. I hit 230 right down the middle. It's from 2008.
And it's just like an impossible club to take out of his bag.
Yeah, it's like Scotty Scheffler's 3-wood,
Yeah. I got custom fitted true spec, and the guy let me hit the Maverick. I mean, everything. He just goes, dude, I cannot explain to you. But he's like, this is the perfect golf club for you. I don't understand it at all. Like, not even a little bit.
Face is probably super hot on it.
Oh, yeah.
By this time. Yeah, it's like, there's no sense in changing that. And
then Chris found the same one in right-handed, but he has the shaft. So if I ever break the shaft, we have a backup because I'm probably going to have that club till forever.
I worked for a golf shop in the Bay Area, and I built golf clubs for a living for him. I ran the repair shop, And so anytime used clubs came in, they knew just to like call me up front because I'd just buy everything. And so they called me up, and they knew
basically running a racketeering, like
pretty much. Like, I don't work for the company anymore, but basically any.
Like, is that a new shaft? He's like, stole it out of this club. Was that a new thing? Took it out of that club. Like, Scotty Cameron came in, snagged it before we could even put it in the inventory. I'm like,
so they let me buy any club I wanted for the price that the store purchased it from the customer.
And those are so under. It's just underestimating the hell out of anything.
Cleveland Highball, I paid $5 for the club. You know, Scotty Cameron's, I was paying $14-15 a club for the Scotty.
I used to go to PGA Tour Superstore like right after college, and I would just go. Remember, for a while I carried 2 drivers. I had a Titleist 983K with a graphite blue shaft in it, and I could hit that like 260 to 275, and then or like really like 250. I could like choke it off, and it was like perfect thing of like above my 3-wood. And then I bought this, and I bought that for like $39 in the used bin. And then there was a Callaway FT5. It was like the half carbon one on the top. Yeah, and that thing just
not
freaking
the
went.
Back, but the
the rounded one. Yeah, and I think I had the same shaft in that one, that graphite blue, and I could hit that thing different shot shape, and it would, and it was 275 to 300, right? And one was a draw, the other one was a fade. Like, they were perfectly complementary clubs to each other.
So you were Phil before Phil then, Tron. You're a double driver.
This was probably right when he was doing all this Frankenwood bullshit, right, at Augusta.
I mean,
so,
he's still doing
right
the Frankenwood shit. Yeah. I mean, he's still rocking. We all know he's rocking a non-Callaway in his bag, but we're not going to say that.
We're not going to say that on this pod.
He's building a new one right now, actually. I was talking to the guys out there the other day. Yeah, he was...
TaylorMade did just release a new version, so Callaway needs to just make him a special.
Yeah, and they've got all the technology now to do the, just to do the one-off, to do the milled stuff, or all the 3D printing stuff, and now it's crazy what they can do out there these days.
I mean, you as a Callaway authorized fitter now, you should know all the inside tech.
Yeah, I actually just put in my order for, kind of coming back from lefty to righty. I just put in my order for all the stuff that came out in January. I haven't really hit it yet.
Did you go Apex or X-Forged?
So I'm still, we're going to film Torah Sauce in a couple weeks, so I'm not doing anything. I'm going to wait. I'm doing X-Forged, but I'm going to wait to get him. There's like a big grip shortage and shaft shortage right now.
Dude, Golf Pride, we couldn't get anything. I put in an $80,000 order, and like they were trickling in. Like it was absurd. Yeah, so I'm kind of waiting on those just so I can get a good build on it, and I'll get with Patrick Boyd and get to, I'll just like, I've never really, I think those are the one, like those X-Forge. I'm playing with a Apex They're incredible
combo set right now, and I love them. Like, there's no reason for me to switch either. I'm hitting my irons as well as I've ever hit them before. And I switched to those Catalyst graphite shafts with these at the beginning of last year, and I picked up like 6-7 yards per iron. I don't hit my irons very far, but they're just stable and firm. And I was talking to Scott Stallings.
Check out the Fujikura ones too. When you go get fitted, the Fujikura Pros are really, really good too, and I think they're very underrated in the graphite space.
Okay, because like I was talking to Scott Stallings about it a few months ago, and he was saying how so many guys on tour are going to graphite in their shafts. Just the tolerances are so much more precise, and it's just a much more consistent kind of trajectory and spec on those. But yeah, so I'm putting I've been deciding between the Epic Speed, the Epic Max, and the Max LS.
Is nice. So Callaway gave me one of those, and they put one of the LinQ UST shafts in there, and it's incredible. It's a weapon.
Yeah, because I'm still so right now I'm still in the I've got the Maverick Sub-Zero, and like they're gonna have to rip that thing out of my hands because I love it so much.
I'm a Maverick guy. I couldn't put a new driver if you wanted.
That's what he's playing, and like I played the Maverick 2 prior to switching over to LS because Callaway was just so kind to me when I was working at the shop. and it was difficult to take the Maverick out because the LS, I definitely picked up some distance, but I lost a lot of accuracy switching away from the Maverick.
He hits a big cut. He was hitting like rope hooks, and I was like, not your club.
It went completely the opposite way, so I had to spend a very long time really tuning it in.
See, so that's where I've actually, like, you know, before I went lefty, I was struggling with just a high right spinny ball, just putting way too much spin on it, you know, 3,500 plus RPMs backspin. So I went, you know, I play like a 80 gram shaft, X stiff, super stiff shaft. And then I've got it always tuned down to 8 degrees, draw setting, sub-zero, you know, as low spin as you can possibly get. And I find, like, after coming back from left-handed, I think I finally like fixed my swing by playing left-handed for a year, where like figured out, all right, I got to get a lot more depth and height in my backswing. Right-handed, I've shallowed out my downswing a lot more to where I'm actually, now I've found that the Sub-Zero is actually, I'm not getting enough spin on it now, and it's kind of falling out of the sky. So I actually went with the regular, just the regular epic speed. So I'm stoked to see how it works out, because seeing like Neil and Ben and Solid, like it's insane how far they're hitting the ball. So seeing Ben. Randy's tough because he doesn't put any spin on the ball, and he's so like, he gets comfortable with something and then he sticks with it, and so he's really, you know, not averse to change. Like, he's always willing to like change something up, but it's very tough to get him to switch to something. So I think he likes the new one. I think he really likes the 3-wood. I think he got a little bit more loft. I think he got the 4-wood. I think he got a little bit more loft on that. And really likes it.
Is he going to stick with that arm lock too?
Yeah, he's putting the shit out of it now. It's like totally taking the yip out, but he doesn't use it as an arm lock. It's just like it's like a 38-inch or 40-inch putter, but he's so tall that it just works for him.
I mean, I'm 6'4", so the length on standard putters have never worked for me. I've always had to kind of custom build my own putter to a 36 and a half. And I mean, for his height, 38 is almost where he should be at anyway. Totally.
Yeah. No, and I think, so I think it's just, you know, it's just a matter of kind of finding something that works. Like, we got to figure out, like, for DJ, we got to get him figured out with like a really, really, I think an 18-degree driving iron for him is essential. Kind of get rid of that miss. Like, I put one of those X-Forge driving irons in with a 130-gram shaft, super stiff, super heavy, and it doesn't put any spin on it, and it's just like the ultimate summer fairway finder. Like, I can't wait to take that thing over to Scotland next year, because it's going to go 400 yards. Like, it's going to fly 180 yards, and it's going to roll like 200 yards. So
with Ashton, his bag is the most unique thing you'll ever come across, because we spent a lot of time in the lab getting his dialed in.
What do you play off of, Ashton?
6.6.
Okay.
So his bag, basically, he doesn't start his irons till a 6-iron.
Okay.
So he is all hybrids to his driver. So he rocks 4 hybrids and a driver. So it's very, very senior when it comes to his bag. If you looked at it, you would think an 80-year-old man hits his clubs.
What's your lowest lofted hybrid? Like an 18-degree?
It's a 17-degree ping that we have snapped down to 15.5, and I hit it about 265. It's insane.
It's the most ridiculous shit you've ever seen. Like, I've got him so dialed in on that ping that he outdrives most people with their 3-woods.
That's awesome.
Like, we played this course on Friday. It was like, I hit. I mean, I forgot how far it was. It was like a 400-yard hole, and I hit hybrid gap wedge. It's like, shit, like, my God.
Hell yeah.
It's to the point where I've dialed these fuckers in so well that they just take my money all the time, and it's to the point where I just should have fucked up a few of their clubs. Because
you got to charge on the front end. You know, now you've proven your value. And
I should just make them pay my buy-ins.
And then they just win the money back off of you, you know, over the next 8 to 12 months, right? No, I think the one thing I found with the combo set is like I'm probably hitting it well enough now to hit, just Apex Pros through the bag, or even do Apex Pros and then have like the MBs, for like the short irons. But I think with the combo set, they're blended as far as the lofts and everything, but it's still, I find that like if I hit the 8 iron out of the sweet spot and I hit the 7 iron out of the sweet spot, that gap there is too big, right? It's pretty, that 7 iron just goes because it's the regular Apex 7 iron. There's so much more technology behind it, where I wish the 7 iron was an Apex Pro, and then the gap was between the 6 and the 7 iron instead of the 7 and the 8 iron. But yeah, I mean, like iron wise, what do you play iron wise, Ashton?
So right now I'm playing the Cobras.
Okay.
So and then I've got the KBS.
Not the Ricky Fowler butter knives.
No,
Yeah.
Not Ricky Fowler butter knives. Fuck those. I don't think anybody, even Ricky Fowler, should play those clubs. We got a set into the shop, and even our scratch golfers that we had, some of our
Sweet
fitters,
spot the size of a dime. Yeah.
I don't think Ricky
it's absurd.
I think he might have played one round. He was out of those things
He's back to
immediately.
prototypes. They're not even playing those. And so, yeah, I love these. And it was a really hard, in between for me. And the only reason I went with these is because the Cobra rep hooked me up with them. Or I was
he's scummy, Tron. It's all just
my
fun
whole
content.
bag basically was free, so it's like it's my bag is made up of what I didn't have to pay for
He doesn't
compared
pay
to
for it. He plays free golf. Just don't listen to anything Big Chris says.
Unreal. Ashton, what do you play?
Because he asked me the question, not you, Big Chris.
Yeah, what do you play like iron wise?
JPX 919 Mizunos.
Okay.
Because I actually went into
those are
spec
great
and they were like, whoa, with your swing speed and stuff, you should be playing blades. I was like, no thanks. Like, I don't want those. Like, I'm not.
But those still have kind of the feel of the feel of a blade, or
And he's got
but with
the
enough
forged
technology.
tours. Yeah, he's got the forged tours, so
Those are
he's got
sick.
the offset of the blade, but he's got just a bit more, of a sweet
perfect.
spot.
So I've got a 60, 56, 52 wedges, pitching wedge through 6 iron, and then I have a 25-degree Titleist hybrid that I hit 195 on the dot. I just swing like this, and it goes way up in the air. I have a 215.
He models it after Lydia Co.
Yeah. I hit the ball well.
You've got kind of an LPGA bag, which is like the ultimate compliment I can give you. Like,
which is honestly, that's one of the reasons I'm obsessed with watching women
an
golf.
LPGA pro.
Yeah.
That's aspirational, man. Yeah, that's fantastic. So what's your 6 iron, how far does that go?
180.
180. Okay.
So basically, it's all so it's like 9 iron is 9 iron goes or pitching wedge goes 140, and then it goes 150, 160, 170, 180. Hybrid goes 195.
That's
Other
the
hybrid
only
goes
gap
215.
I couldn't get into that 10 yard window. But other than that, he's got a 10-yard window.
Do you struggle like on par threes? Do you always tee up the hybrids, or do you just throw them on the ground and? Because that's where I struggle sometimes with a hybrid. Like, I've moved more towards a driving iron now because I struggle like with whether to tee it up or not, or just and just distance control with the hybrids is so much. I find it so much trickier than with a long iron.
Well, I think what is actually with Chris, he's obviously not like my swing coach. One thing that was really helpful when he was fitting me was the only time that I hit my hybrids bad are when I swing hard.
Too hard.
So for me, it's just like, even sometimes when I get up over like this, like we had a shot, par 3, I'm like, dude, like it's all about, with my long clubs, it's all about tempo. So it's just like, hey, chill out. Like, you literally have this club because it's doing the job
forces
for you.
you to, yeah.
The only times where it goes sideways, I'll hit like this gross pull if I get too quick, but and then I do that.
But you can take some off of your hybrids though. So that's the thing is, he can't add more to them. But like if he has like a 255 that he needs to hit, he can take that 10 yards off the 265 and still have great accuracy with it. Where if he's trying to push it to 270 from his 265 club, it's going to go all over the fucking place.
It's going to spin like crazy. Yeah.
And that's the nice part with those 4 hybrids is like, I feel comfortable. Like, there was a day where it was super windy, and this is counterintuitive, but I just didn't want to feel like muscling a 7. So I hit this baby butter, like just super
No, it makes
smooth,
perfect
like
sense.
probably 175 yard hybrid. But like I view the reason I love my bag so much is those hybrids for me can go anywhere from like 170 to 260. Because I've got 4 of them, I just have a lot of options, and that's kind of what I love, because I've got no problem hitting a 6-iron, but it's like, okay, like I'm usually hitting my 6-iron and below well, but when it starts to get to 5, it's like probabilities are low. When it gets to a 4-iron, it's like 2 times out of 10. So I'm just trying to use the buzzword of the day. It's like
more
optimize,
impressive.
you know.
There's nothing more impressive than when I play with like an older guy, like 60s, even into 70s, that can hit his like he's got either a driving iron or a set of hybrids or even a 5-wood that the guy can just do whatever he wants with it. Like work it both ways, high, low, hit just a wide variety of shots with that same club. And like those are the guys that you never ever ever want to bet against, right? And it sounds like you're kind of on that plan of like
He is.
Yeah, well, I think the big thing for
We're
me is
kind
like
of both that way, because my bag, I cut it at a 5-iron, and I have a 7-wood, 5-wood, 3-wood makeup.
Okay.
And so in asking and speak on that, I would say my best clubs in my bag, no matter what, are probably my 5-wood, 7-wood. And I can hit those on a dime every single time, no matter the lie or what I'm doing with them. Those kind of things, I think most people miss out on with the fittings as well. Because if you're not going in and having an open mind with that, everybody has a lot of fitters have this like window where they think
like
everybody needs to have a 3-iron. Yeah,
I shouldn't have a 3. I can't. I top my 3-wood every time. I can't hit it.
It was absurd watching him try to hit a wood, and in the minute he put a hybrid in his hand, shorten the shaft a little bit. I mean, he's getting the distance you would get on a normal wood. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. So it's like I go back to even like there was a couple summers growing up where like my dad, he had a full bag of Callaway stuff, and he had a biggest Big Bertha, and then the Great Big Bertha 3-wood, 5-wood, 7-wood. And I remember one summer I just started hitting the 3-wood off the tee because it was so firm and hot. And then I remember by the end of the summer I was just hitting 5-wood off of every tee because I could get it out there 250, 255, and it was just going. But it was so accurate. And it was so easy to hit too. Like it was just so consistent, right? And it's the same thing. Like I think like I played in a LPGA Pro-Am a few years back with Jane Park, and she had like a 6-wood, this ping 6-wood. So I went back to Callaway and I was like, hey, make me like I called it the sex wood. It was like it was a 7-wood with a little bit less loft on it, kind of turned down, and then this kind of noodly shaft in it that was not as stiff as a stiff, but it was stiffer than a regular. It was like a and basically same deal, keep me from over swinging, and I played that thing for year and a half, 2 years, and it was a great club, especially when I was struggling a little bit. It was a great club to like get me out of my bad habits.
Well, and I think the big thing that we all know too is I think that the reason I've gotten so much better in the last couple of years is I've removed, like, I am not like one of those like prove to myself or ego driven golfer, but I think what's always been hard for me is I have like really fast swing speed. So like Chris is 6 inches taller than me and 100 pounds heavier than me, and if we both hit it good, I hit it 60 yards by him.
Yeah, it's very infuriating.
But the thing for me though as a kid is because I didn't know where it was going, there was a lot of ego in the sense of like everyone was like, wow, like there was always a sense of like, look at you hitting your driver. And so it's like, because of your swing speed, you should hit X. And why
the expectations
I've gotten a lot better where people see me my drive on one hole and like, holy shit. And then I go up and get up on par 3 and I'm hitting a hybrid from 170 and they're like, but you shouldn't. I was like, no, but that's like,
sick. Yeah.
This is why, like,
me.
Actually, what resonated with me with so much with Neil is last year at River Pines, I shot 69. I broke par for the only time in my life, and I did it. I played the middle tees, and I hit my high bore hybrid. I hit 14 fairways. I had my high bore hybrid just stripe show all day. And so when I saw Neil broke par at those two, I was like, there's something there. Because honestly, Chris can attest, I have a very similar game to Neil. Like, they call Icarito all the time on the course. They're just like, dude, calm down. Stop over swinging. Chill out. And then Neil did that, and I was like, why are we fucking hitting driver everywhere?
It's all up there, man. He doubled the first hole.
Right.
Like he had no expectations that day. Wasn't even playing with his own clubs. Like it was
fuck, right?
It was
So
wild. Yeah, it was wild. Yeah, Max Home was in the group ahead. Like it was just bizarre. You know, Max is, and like it was very funny watching him come in and try to get it in the house. But
I remember watching that putt. You guys were live streaming his, like, the putt would only think it was for like the U.S. Open, which to him it was. I mean, he might have a bigger moment in his life.
Totally. So yeah, no, that was a fun day. That was a really fun day. But
the take the ego out of golf. I think that's what we should all do more of. You know.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's like, hey, what's more embarrassing, like hitting a hybrid from 180 yards or shooting like 91, right? Or like unnecessarily putting yourself in positions when you could be better, but like you won't let yourself, right? I think it's, and it's a series of like little decisions, like whether it's putting a 7-wood in the bag or a hybrid, or like me going to graphite irons or something like that, where it's like, hey man, like, I'm out of shape and I don't have the swing speed I need to. Technology and equipment can help me out a little bit with that, Yeah. So,
yeah. Well, Sean, thanks for spending so much time with us, man. I know it's been like 90 minutes. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, no, all good. I gotta roll here soon, but yeah, would love to do it again sometime. It's always fun to just kind of like unstructured conversational format. A lot of the time people just come on and like, all right, I want to ask you these 15 questions. It's like, it's always refreshing when it's just a free flowing dialogue.
That's kind of our gig. We don't want it to be structured. We want people to, we want you to come on, be friends with us, and enjoy your time. There's too many podcasts out there where people are, asking question after question. It's a detailed interview, and that's just not.
Yeah.
Well, and also too, it's helpful is you guys are obviously out there enough where it's like, I mean, when we do the intro to this, we'll talk about, like, I think people probably know, anybody who's listening to us probably knows about you guys and the origin story, and there's plenty of content for people to go watch. But
which will never not be weird to me, right? Like I always kind of go in assuming people have no clue who I am or whatever.
Felt weird talking to Chris. I was like, well, I felt weird. I wanted to not shoot originally, but it's like, fuck, man, like it's like
I love it. No, it's great.
It's like yeah. And the last thing I wanted to tell you, just because I heard you listened to you talked to the guy who sat in the Waffle House for a while.
Yeah,
I just thought you. First of all, that was amazing. The world needed that. But I just thought you were talking about kind of collecting stories of people who've done like fucked up shit for coming in last. My fantasy baseball league, we've been doing it for 15 years. I'm 29, so now we've been doing it. We started at Marist. All my Marist buddies. My dad's been in it all 15 years, and my dad's actually won 2 or 3 times. Like my dad's always really good. We instituted a penalty. Dad comes in last, and we decided before he came in last that the loser had to take the ACT. And so there wasn't any like videos for obvious reasons, but my stepmom still like laughs her ass off because like my father at 54 years old was sitting in a room in Johns Creek High School with a bunch of 16-year-olds taking the ACT. And in fairness to him, he got a 33 out of 36. Like he nailed it. Yeah. But just the idea that my dad had to sit there for 5 hours
with Saturday morning
with a bunch of 16-year-olds. Like I'm sure their kids were like, Mom, there was like an old man. Like I we were actually thinking, I was like, man, should I have dad? Because my dad's a lawyer. I'm like, should I have him take the the bar exam? Something where he's not going to get like a red square over his house. But,
yeah. I've heard Wonderlic. I've heard people saying ACT or SAT, or I've heard the idea. I don't think I've ever heard anybody actually follow through on it. So that's awesome.
Yeah. My 55-year-old dad sitting in Johns Creek High School with a bunch of 16-year-olds taking the test.
33 is solid too. I
think he missed the reading comprehension perfect score by 1. Crazy.
Especially like after not having done like any like I think if I had to go back and do, I mean I didn't do well on the math portion of SAT or
science.
ACT.
The science is so brutal.
But like after not having been in a classroom for like a science or math classroom now for 14 years or whatnot, like I think I would be so rusty on that stuff. I think I would do well on the verbal stuff, but I would just fail miserably on all the math and calculus and arithmetic. Even just simple geometry stuff would be kind of a mind melt for me. So,
See, but Mr. Ashton is actually like a true fucking legend too. I mean, him and his buddy Johnny did
You mean
this.
my dad? You said Mr. Ashton.
Why did I say Mr. Ashton? I don't know. It's getting to the end of the podcast.
Just
Mr.
so you know,
Moss.
earlier I was asking our little golf group what everyone's birthdays was, just so that we could celebrate them. Chris told me the wrong. He told me
I told him the wrong
for-
day. It's just what I do, so we're just gonna roll with it. But Mr. Moss is
Mr.
a legend.
Ashton.
Yeah,
Jesus
Mr.
Christ.
There we go. Mr. Moss and his buddy Johnny did this golf tournament for 30 years called the Ross, where they would go and play a different Ross every single year. And so we had both of them on for one of our earlier pods. So if you ever have a little bit of time,
I'll
you're
have
on
to
a
go
plane.
back and listen to that.
It's
what was
a good
the,
one.
What was like the unequivocal? Did they go back to the same place ever, or was it a new place every year?
They had some repeats. They
there
played
were some
Mid
that were
Pines a lot.
repeats.
I
There
think
were
Mid Pines was the one that
Mid-Pines
they
rules.
repeated the most. But they tried to change it as much. The older they got, the more they started repeating them. But they had this running list, and if you listen to the pod, it's fantastic because the reasons that they would eliminate people from the invite and invite new people are the best thing ever, because if
Oh, they
they
didn't boot
played
it.
too well, you'd get booted.
Didn't
Like,
boot
it
it.
was just like, or if you just were a horrible guy and people didn't vibe with you, you're booted. So they had all these really like unspoken rules of, and then guys would get offended because they didn't get invited the next year, and it
I
just
love it.
epic 30 years of stories
Stories
and
of guys cheating and all kinds of stuff.
all
But-
kinds of shit, and it's the best. And we've got about like 3 or 4 more pods to do with them to
Yeah.
cover all the stories that they have.
All right,
Yeah.
it's all good. Yeah, I'm gonna write that down.
We can send it to you just so you can find it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Yeah, we're actually going to try to do our own golf tournament. So we're going to do me and my dad's buddy are going to be captains.
Which we'll
and
send
then-
you guys the invite. We're going to call it the Modern
You guys
Golden
wanna
Age
come?
Invitational. If you guys want to come, we're going to change
Love
it
it.
between.
Send it along, man. Sometimes
we will.
sometimes stuff works out schedule wise. We can,
Well, we're gonna
get-
start off at Soul Park and Rustic, so it's a place y'all will
Okay.
feel. We'll
Yeah.
have to twist your arm too hard to come
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
We'll
So-
have to get Poosh out there too. Poosh is
Absolutely.
Poosh
Yeah.
has been playing
We-
at Soul Park like crazy lately.
We actually
so
on our
good.
last golf trip, we played at Sandpiper, and I was like, hey, we're here. If you're here, we'd love to buy you beer. He's like, I was there yesterday, I'm gonna be there tomorrow, but I'm not there today.
Yeah, yeah. He's got
and he-
he's got a young kid too, so he's kind of burning it at both ends right now. So
Yeah, I've been seeing his post about like any Santa Barbara childcare. I'm like, okay, I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah.
Like, maybe he can't come out to meet a bunch of dumbasses at Sandpiper.
exactly. But I guarantee you, he thought about it. You know, he's
Oh, yeah,
He's
his
a
response
degenerate like
definitely
us.
seemed like, damn, I would actually enjoy that.
yeah. Oh, he's the man, dude. Yeah, he will drop anything at the drop of a hat and get out there and play. So
Yeah, and also I think we might have told you but we've got a couple of our we have a little hat. We're sending a couple to you guys too. So those are in the mail as of today.
nice.
So
thank you
I
guys.
was in
Appreciate
the
it, man.
middle of moving back to Portland, so they were packed up away. So now that I discovered them, I'm able to mail them off to you. So we got a couple of our MuniciPals hats coming your way.
Awesome. We love it, guys. Well, thanks so much for having me. This was awesome. And yeah, like I said, would love to come back on at some point. And yeah, please send over that Ross podcast. That sounds
will
like
do.
exactly like perfect like road trip or flight material. So
The stories are too good. You're going to enjoy it.
love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
awesome.
All right, Tron.
Thanks, Tron.
Hey, have a good
All
night.
right, guys. Thanks. You too.
See ya.
See ya.